Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of Robert's philosophy. And today we're going to start with new chapter. Earlier we have finished with the chapters which were generally more theoretical, and because of which it looks little bit boring that how these things are there or why it is necessary. But whatever Robert has said is very correct. He said that unless and until we are very thorough with the scientific aspects, it is not possible to fight with the allopaths. You should explain the scientificity of the homeopathy, and that's why he has written the last chapter, that is the laws of homeopathy in relation with the basic sciences. So that we have discussed in detail, in length, and he has tried to explain the correlation between laws of basic sciences with the laws of homeopathy, and we have studied them in detail. Today, we're going to start with chapter number 8. That is the page number का है? Taking the case, page number 75. This is most important chapter for us because we're going to learn many practical things. Whenever case taking happens, there are, it looks very simple, but if you don't get acknowledged how to go ahead, what are the tactics, what is an art in the case taking, it becomes rather difficult for everyone. General case taking from allopathic point of view is rather different than the homeopathic point of view. When you have to learn homeopathy and homeopathic case taking, you have to learn along with the science, the art, and how to approach, how one should go ahead, what questions we can ask, what are the qualities you should have. All those things are already mentioned by Hahnemann in his 6th edition of Organ of Medicine, right from aphorism number 82 onwards to the 104. And whole part was dealing with the case taking. In the aphorism number 83, he has given 4 basic qualities of the homeopathic physician for chronic case taking. He has explained over there, these qualities should be there if you are taking the case. The first is freedom from prejudice. The second is attention in observing. Third is sound senses. And fourth is the fidelity in tracing the picture of disease. These are 4 qualities which he has mentioned. If those are there with you, you can go ahead. You can develop. And what art which you require, that he tried to explain over there. So we'll start with this much introduction. The chapter number 8 from Robert's philosophy, taking the case. He has written over there, see Organon paragraph 83 to 104. Yes, this is the part which are related with the case taking. In taking the case, the homeopathic physician has 2 objects in view. First, there is the object of diagnosis. This is to place your difficulty in the group, in a group class. The homeopathic physician can have no other object in making the diagnosis than to classify the symptoms under group head, since the homeopathic physician never uses his diagnosis for therapeutic purposes. In this, it differs from the ordinary school of medicine, which uses diagnosis as a guide to desired therapy. Certain group of conditions determined by diagnosis, determining therapy to be applied. So, 2 objects are there. Even while writing the 3rd aphorism, Hahnemann have explained the qualities of physician. And first quality he has mentioned is homeopathic physician should have knowledge of disease. At the same time, he has written after comma, indication. So what it means? It means you should have knowledge of disease as a diagnosis. For example, if a patient comes to you, pain in right iliac fossa, you should come to the conclusion whether it is appendicitis, whether it is ureteric calculi, whether it is a ureteric pain in case of females, whether it is related with the ovaries or ovarian complaint. You must be able to exactly understand what it is. But still, your treatment never depends upon that, as it depends upon the it in allopathy. Modern science considers, if it is appendicitis, immediately they think, plan. Two types of plans are there. First is medicinal line of treatment, or second is surgical. So their thought process runs according to the diagnosis. But for homeopathic point of view, it doesn't give any significance. It gives significance for rest of the things, but not for the therapeutic purpose. You will not going to select your remedy on the basis of appendicitis. You are going to select your remedy for the patient of appendicitis, depending upon how the patient presents. So if the patient comes to you with very severe pain in right iliac fossa and he is bending double and having severe, he is pressing it hard, and he says, doctor, there is very severe pain, I cannot move, and he is pressing and he's saying that, doctor, it is stitching, tremendously stitching, even I cannot lie down over there on bed, and you see his lips are dry. You ask, what about stools? He said, there is constipation since last 2-3 days. I have not passed the stools. If asked regarding the thirst, he says, I used to drink water at least 2-3 glasses at a time. So you are coming to the remedy on the basis of individualizing features, indications, which indicates the individuality of that human being, not on the diagnosis that patient is having appendicitis. How the patient of appendicitis is presenting, that we have to take into consideration. So our remedy becomes a bryonia on the basis of that. So these are the things which you have to catch. And these are two objects. One object is to diagnose only for understanding prognosis and disease pathogenesis progress. And second object is just to select a remedy depending upon the characteristic totality which patient present. So this is what he says. What he further says, with the homeopathic physician, the group is never treated as a unit. The individual patient, into whatever diagnostic group he may fall, is treated as an individual, and the therapeutic measures are directed according to the individual symptom. So this is the basic difference. In the earlier paragraph, he has mentioned that in allopathy, there is group treatment. If there are 10 patients of appendicitis, there is treatment which is very similar in each of every patient in allopathy. The line of management is based upon the group practice. Yes, this group of patients, yes, or this is the line of treatment, finished, that's all. In homeopathy, you cannot do it because you don't have to treat that diagnosis, you have to treat that individual. The individualization makes the difference, and here you have to find it out a right remedy on the basis of individualizing features, and this is a big difference between two systems of medicine. So homeopathic object for the case taking is to find it out a remedy not dependent upon the diagnosis, but dependent upon the individualizing features. Therefore, the second and greater object in taking the case is to select the true symptoms of the patient and to clarify them so that we can make a definite picture of the ills of the patient. So second important thing which he tries to explain over there is exactly what totality patient presents. It's too important. What is the true totality? Word which he has used is very important, true totality. True means which are the symptoms which indicates the individuality of the person. Either they might be a characteristic symptom, either they might be a complete symptom, but those things which are essential to give you individuality of that individual, and that totality is called as the real totality or true totality, which is necessary for homeopathy. Many of the things of which we speak when it comes to taking the case may seem very commonplace, but there is nothing in the practice of homeopathy upon which so much depends as thorough comprehension of the background that we must have in taking the case and getting the case properly before us for analysis. The presentation of the case should include the whole picture. We cannot depend upon our memory in taking the case. The picture must be preserved in indelible form, in the form which we may go over in review without the danger of leaving out any important symptom. We must be able to turn back to any individual symptoms or group of symptoms at any time. So as the first requisite in taking the case, you must have your record cards with you to note down the case as it is taken. So much depends upon this record that you cannot afford not to take time for properly recording the case. So here he starts the practical aspect. And what he explains in the first, that you should not depend upon your memory for taking the case. Means what? If you don't write it down the record, you should, if you are not making the record of the patient completely in written form, how can you memorize when patient comes after 15 days, after a month, and you, how can you recollect? So record keeping is the first step towards the case taking. It is too important and it is needed. I have seen the homeopathic physicians who never keeps the record. And every time they come, they deal with the patient with the present totality and they give the remedy for that specific thing. How can you cure a chronic case with this aspect? How can you recollect what you have given last time? You don't have a record with you. How can you use the drug remedy relationship if you don't know what you have prescribed last time? These are all things which matters in such types of cases. And that's why first important need when you start with the case taking is the keeping the records. Second important thing that he explains, you write down each and every symptom, whatever the patient narrates. And individualizing examination of all the symptoms, whatever the patient tells, you should write it down. And Hahnemann have used the word fidelity in taking the picture of the disease. Fidelity word means as it is, tanto tantapana, as patient mentions in his own language, because same language was used by the prover during drug proving. If you are able to match that language, your remedy is more perfect than anything else. And that's why it's too important. I will tell you simple examples. Do you have the Borix Materia Medica with you? If it is there, open your Borix Materia Medica. Open the Kalika. Just see what is there in the proving. It has been written over there, back and legs gives out. This is the word, this is the sentence which has been written over there. Is it there in Borix Materia Medica? Back and legs gives out. Patient, whenever patient talks, when patient talks in Marathi, कंबर पार कामात न गेली, पाय पार कामात न गेले. This is the sentence. Same language which the patient tells, the similar language is written in the book. If it is there, you can catch as it is. Even you open the aesculus, you'll get the same symptom, back gives out. But it is associated with hemorrhoidal complaints. The sentences which patient utilizes are there in our Materia Medica in the same language. Is it there? Even in aesculus, it is there, but it is a very important symptom, lumbago, associated with all symptoms in aesculus. So the language matters a lot. What patient tells, what patient says, these are the sentences which you have to catch and you have to write it down in the same words as patient has said. So first important thing which he mentions in case taking, you should have your own case taking record form. Why form is necessary? I have seen that there are many patients who says, many physicians who says there is no need to write it down everything. You should not have a written form. But if you go with a plain pages, you forget many things. Instead of that, if you have a fully printed case taking form, you can fulfill each and everything. If you forget something, you can ask. So while at the end of case taking, you can just go through the case paper and you can fill the blanks which are remaining over there. So that is more important. For that purpose, it is necessary to have a printed form, case taking form, so that you should not miss a thing. And that's why the necessity of the printed recorded form is first important thing. Second, those records you will require forever because patient returns after 2 years. Some patients are now in 33 years of my practice. There are some patients who are returning to me after 25 years. And I look toward the patient. Yes, I immediately says, yes, how are you? They says, doctor, do you recognize me? I said, I have recognized you. I have called you by name. Why it happens? It happens only because you had printed recorded forms. I have a record right from day one in my computer of all the patients. Whole data is there right from the first patient in my practice in 1991 till today. So this is very essential, and that's why the record keeping, he says, most important. So last sentence, so much depends upon this record that you cannot afford not to take the time for properly recording the case. Then he says, in making the first prescription, this record is all important. Making the first prescription, this record is all important. And in making of the subsequent prescription and in reviewing the case, so that we may know the sequence of the symptoms and the order of disappearance of the symptoms, we cannot move with any degree of assurance unless we have the record in accessible form. See, very, very perfect answer to the question, why, what is the importance of record keeping? Because of record keeping, in the follow-ups, we can go in the way when we write down what is the difference between the first ODP and now what are the changes are happening, whether it is happening according to the Herring's law of direction of cure or whether this is happening in a wrong way. If we can, how can we check? If we have printed record. If it is not there, we cannot. And that's why it is too important to have our own records of the patient. Then what he says, the attitude of the physician should be one of the absolute rest and poise, with no preconceived ideas, non prejudices. This is the sentence which will require to be elaborate. What he says, the attitude, approach. Attitude is an approach, how the physician should be. The attitude of the physician should be one of absolute rest. Means what? If you are confused, how the patient will get settled? When you are dealing with the patient, you should be in a complete free state of your mind. The mind should be cool so that you can listen to the patient properly. Most important quality one must develop as a homeopath is the listening. If you develop a quality of listening, then we will get many female patients in your practice. Because no one listens to them at their house. You are the best person who listens. That's why they comes to you. So one must develop this quality, that listening with understanding, with perceiving. Whatever the patient is uttering, just observe how the patient narrates, what patient narrates. Every sentence, the tone of the voice, how he looks, everything matters. So these are very important things. So you should be, if you are in the mental peace, then and then you can look toward those things. If you are in hurry, you cannot. That's why he says the absolute rest and poise. So you should keep on listening and don't disturb the patient by putting number of questions. You put one question and listen. Patient is narrating, just go on listening, don't interrupt. Because there is a train of thought, that is a good word which is used by Hahnemann over there, that gets disturbed. Train of thoughts means vicharanchi shrunkala, and that is very, very important. If it starts, patient starts narrating, he starts narrating in a proper manner. He gives you ODP in a proper manner. If you put a right question, I used to put one question to my patient whenever I start case taking after completing preliminary data. I used to ask only one question. Tell me everything right from the start of the disease till today, what has happened and how your disease is progressed. This is the question. In Marathi, I used to ask, जिथपासून आजाराची सुरुवात झाली तिथपासून आतापर्यंत काय काय कसं कसं होत गेलं हे सगळं अगदी डिटेल सांग. finished, and then go on listening. This is too important. If you prepare your questions properly, you get proper answers from the patient. Your answers always depends upon such a thing. So whatever the answer patient gives, it depends how do you put your question. You should be humble enough to talk. And second important thing, your tone of voice matters a lot. It should have the tone of sympathy towards the patient. It should be in a proper language. Then patient narrates. Then patient thinks he is the right person with whom I can share. So this is too important. The attitude of the physician should be one of the absolute rest and quiet, with no preconceived ideas nor prejudices. What is preconceived idea? Preconceived ideas means as if you are looking toward the patient with certain judgment. You should not be prejudiced. Your mind should not be biased. If it is biased, your question starts in relation with the remedy which is there in your mind. And if you go with that, you fail. So it should not happen like that. And that's why he says it is too important that there should not be any preconceived ideas, not even prejudices. He should be in a quiet, listening attitude. See, same words which he is using over there. Listening attitude. Button first. Listening attitude is very important. When patient is narrating, you should look toward the patient. You should not look down in what you are writing. You look toward the patient, how the patient is narrating. That is what is called as perceive. When patient is narrating, you perceive the thing. That's why you should be very, very quiet and listening attitude. And patient should feel this fellow is listening me. Patient should feel that you are listening to him. This is what is called as listening attitude. That it never depends upon that you are listening. Patient should feel that you are really listening to him, whatever he is narrating. So you should be at least, you should not be just stiff. Your rubric should not be sit stiff. No. You should look toward the patient. You should just, yes. These are a very important thing that indicates you are listening to him. This is too important. Whatever the next person is saying, you should be just give the response, not verbally. It is not verbally. It is not needed. But you should just give, that is very important. He shouldn't be in a quiet listening attitude, and as the case is presented to him, he should have no previous impressions as to what remedy the patient will require, because this of itself would bias his judgment. So, most important thing he mentions over there, no previous impression as to what remedy the patient will require. Patient comes and patient talks to you on telephone, doctor, I want to take your treatment for the osteoarthritis. Immediately your thought runs, right? Causticum द्यायचं, cipilinum द्यायचं. If your process starts like this, then you will ask questions accordingly when he comes to your opinion. You should not make any impression, whatever it may be, whether it is osteoarthritis, whether it is rheumatoid arthritis, whether it is spinal canal stenosis, whether it is cervical spine, it doesn't matter. Because your remedies will not depend upon this. Your remedies will depend what patient narrates, how the patient narrates, what he expresses, what are the modalities, what is sensation, where is the location, whether is there any concomitant associated. All things matters to give you individuality of that patient. The patient might require any remedy from your mater medica. It is not fixed remedy. So you should not go with that direction. This is too important. And this is the technique, this is the art with which patient present. We used to learn mathematics like that. Sepia is the female remedy. And we are fixed with our mind. So if gents comes, we never think of sepia. Problem arises because we have make it fixed in our mind that sepia is the female remedy. What I am observing, there are many sepia males than sepia females in practice. I used to get very common. How this is happening? This is happening because I am not treating sepia female. I am treating a person who comes to me. Whatever the patient's, whatever the symptoms he presents, I used to think. And accordingly, I repertorize and I used to find it out of them. So there should not be pre-convinced idea in your mind regarding the remedy. I think we'll stop over here because there are many things we have to learn when we have started with this chapter. There are many hints which he has mentioned, and those we will going to learn so that our concept of case taking becomes very clear. So that's all for today. Today evening we'll meet with the Helleborus niger, another remedy from third year syllabus, and which is very important in practice. So today we'll meet again at 8:15 sharp. Because of some problems, functions, it was not possible to attend to maintain lectures. So we'll definitely meet at 8:15. Thanks a lot and good evening.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.